pinned message. We covered Hussam Shabazz assassination and Hamdallah Bilal's lynch/kidnapping. This is why writing this stuff out and just like explaining it to people over and over again does not matter. Look, as I'm in the process of talking about it, there's still someone who's linking it. I know, man. We already covered it. Yes, of course I covered it. What do you think?
Secretary, I'm reading the piece as we speak, and it's interesting because Goldberg writes that he had very strong doubts that this text group was real. I could not believe that the national security leadership of the United States would communicate on signal about imminent war plans. I also could not believe that the national security advisor to the president would be so reckless, he writes, as to include the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic in such discussions with senior U.S. officials. Secretary, what's your reaction to this reporting?
Well, it's obviously a very serious mistake on the part of whoever included Goldberg in this highly classified chain of command messaging that went on that involved war plans. To have had somebody from the Atlantic on that chain, without question, was a serious mistake. And I hope the White House takes this seriously, because the last thing you want to do when you're talking about war.
I hope they don't, because honestly, I love the incompetence. I hope they don't take it seriously. And I hope that they keep doing this. I hope that they keep accidentally adding journalists, and real journalists, not Goldberg, who is a fake journalist, but simply a stenographer for the State Department. But instead they have like real journalists on there, you know, that'd be sick. Of course, that'll never happen, because I don't think that any real journalist is going to be a phone number, is going to have their phone number saved in the phone of Mike Waltz. War Thunder Discord in disarray after being outflanked by a drunk. Yeah. I have a suspicion that they meant to include Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Homeland Security Advisor Joshua Geltzer. Makes you wonder whether or not that it was done intentionally, because that level of incompetence is incomprehensible. It's a very weird situation, because the administration is that stupid. I mean, dude, Pete Hegseth is a Fox News contributor. He's a weekend host, and now he is in charge of the DOD. Like it's weird, because on the one hand, I'm like, whoa, is this a clever way to just like to do a show of force? Because everything that you got from the leak itself is not all that surprising. Like it's stuff that you imagine them saying in public. So I look at it and I think to myself, like, when a leak like this happens, like, who's doing the leaking is important. Is it a contentious adversarial reporter? Or is it someone who has always played the role of going along with the American State Department's interests? And also, what information, more importantly than that, what information did we get out of this leak? And the information that we got out of this leak is just like, you know, JD Vance being like, yeah, Europe, which is, you know, oh, maybe we shouldn't actually do this. They're debating being an isolationist, right? While also talking about how much they despise that Europeans are freeloaders of American security. Like, that in and of itself is stuff that that is something that you would see in public. Yeah, Lolo is joking here. In my opinion, not enough slurs for it to be an unintentional leak. I know their asses are sending horrible gifts too. I'm not even joking. This is a joke, but I think this is also real. Pete Hegseth admits the Iran-funded Houthis narrative is a made-up talking point to sell the bombing campaign to the average feeble American John Doe. Fantastic. At 8:27, a message arrived from Pete Hegseth account. VP, I understand your concerns and I fully support you raising with quotas. Important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine, peace, Gaza, etc. I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on 1, Biden failed, 2, Iran funded. I will say, I don't hate that they're so incompetent that we don't have to do any sort of serious journalism to figure out like what kind of focus group testing the former Vice President Dick Cheney had to do in order to sell the war in Iraq to the American population. As we found out after the fact, they just kind of reveal it voluntarily. They're like, yeah, Americans are stupid. How do we sell them another bombing campaign? That's right. We tell them, oh, it's Iran. They don't know who the Houthis are, but they're not going to have a lot of appetite for bombing yet another random country. So we'll just say it was Biden's failure. Any unauthorized release of classified information is a violation of the law and will be treated as such. Oh my God. Tulsi Gabbard is so interesting to me as the DNI. Like, this is her job now, right? The head of serving as the 8th director of national intelligence, right? Tulsi Gabbard is like pro Edward Snowden, but also simultaneously is saying it's so interesting. Hasan İmamoğlu Türkiye gündemiyle ilgili en azından ufak bir konuşur musun? Ezgi'ciğim konuştum. Son 2 saattir hatta sadece Türkiye ile ilgili konuştum. Kaçırdın. Yeni bitti İmamoğlu konuşması. Anyway. Interesting stuff.
Our plans is to have a serious leak like this that could undermine the war plans, but also jeopardize lives. So I hope they take this seriously.
What were you saying? Ain't no way he gets arrested? I doubt it. But I'd be shocked that they arrest him. They arrest an ally to the State Department for their own personal incompetence. Maybe. The Trump administration is so stupid that who knows, you know?
What would that look like, Secretary?
I think they would have to do a full investigation as to who included this name on that chain involving the highest officials in national security, from the president to the vice president to a secretary of defense, et cetera. How the name of a journalist was added to that list. This is just a serious blunder, and not only could violate the espionage laws, but more importantly, can undermine our national security. That's probably the greater problem, is that it reveals our most secret war plans that require that we protect.
How is it a secret? Like, every administration has bombed Yemen. Every single one. Democrat, Republican, every single one. It's not a secret. It's an expectation. Like, oh man, we got to bomb Yemen again. Oh, I'm shocked. What a shocking display. Wow, Trump really changed the trajectory of American foreign policy by doing the thing that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Trump did last time he was in office. Interesting. America, it's like having a group chat being like, hey guys, we should give $7 trillion to Israel. And then people being like, wow, this is a real change of pace. They're leaking state secrets out here. I can't believe it. This is so different than the previous administration and the administration prior and the administration prior and the administration prior. Another supply of bombs to Israel. Wow.
Protect that information in order to be able to conduct what is obviously a serious operation of war.
To that point, Secretary, I wonder what could have happened here if it wasn't Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief at The Atlantic, who received this and decided to publish the story. If it had been someone else on the contact list that was added to the signal chat, what would have been a worst-case scenario that would have put national security at risk?
Well, the worst-case scenario, I mean, thankfully, Jeffrey Goldberg just assumed that this was either a joke or some kind of mistake, and obviously didn't pay attention. But somebody who would have the United States as an adversary could reveal this information immediately to the Houthis in Yemen that they.
Dude, I can't. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just envisioning a future where Jeffrey Goldberg is arrested, and it's so awesome. Which is part of the reason why it won't happen. Like, it's so incredible. Oh my God. It's great. I can't believe that this would be the one time where on principle I'm against this move, but goddamn do I enjoy the show, you know? For once, Donald Trump offers an olive branch to those who definitely want to see Jeffrey Goldberg arrested.
They were about to be attacked, and they in turn could have responded and attacked U.S. facilities in the Red Sea, causing casualties of our troops and of our men and women in uniform. So if it were somebody who did not have the United States' national security interests at heart, but rather had the interests of our adversaries.
Yeah, he's like, don't worry. Thank God Goldberg has the United States national security interests at heart.
He could have seriously disrupted these war plans.
I wonder what you make of the administration's response, framing this, not denying the story, but framing this as an example of a thorough policy discussion, a thorough discussion about how to approach.
What's Fox News saying about this? Are you ready? I haven't seen what Fox News' response is, but I will tell you. One, the committee obviously kept their responses incredibly professional. As you can see, this is the most glorious committee that anyone has ever seen. It's so obvious that they are brave, brilliant, and have the America's interests at heart. Also, Goldberg should go to prison for even revealing this information instead of politely saying, I'm sorry, and seeing himself out of this chat while the real patriots were discussing bombing Yemen. Okay? That is 100% what the Republican take is going to be, and people are already linking it. Let's take a look. Let's see if I got it 100. Let's see. Let's see if I pre-watched it.
Story today out of The Atlantic, where their editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg has reported that he was accidentally sent sensitive information about military strikes in Yemen. The messages come from 18 national security officials. They were sent through the encryption app Signal, and there are indications that they appear to be authentic. I think there are two takeaways from the story as of what we know.
Wow. Let's see what the two takeaways from this story are.
Today. One, it is incredibly concerning that sensitive information would be sent with a journalist included in the thread. We can speculate, and there is reasonable, fair expectation that somebody like Jeffrey Goldberg was accidentally included under his initials, JG, when who was meant to be included was a trade chief, Jameson Greer. But if it was accidental, and we'll wait to see if this was accidental, it is incredibly concerning that this information would be shared over the Signal app with the journalist included. But the bigger takeaway for me is it's an insight, a transparent insight into the thought process and dialogue of our national leaders. If you look at the actual content of what was reported, if you look at how they discuss potential strikes on Houthis in Yemen, what you will see is dialogue between Vice President J.D. Vance.
I told you, dude. There you go. There you go. Oh, wow. Shocking that the state propaganda apparatus Fox News is saying, well, the dialogue here is fantastic. I mean, as you can tell, these are our glorious leaders are at work, and they're doing discourse. They're doing dialogue. They're handling themselves in the utmost professional manner.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Stephen Miller, Tulsi Gabbard, and many more in a very collaborative, open, honest, team-based attempt to...
You know what's funny? I got down the individual talking points, okay? I got down the individual talking points. Oh my God.
come to the right decision. After years of secrecy and incompetence, if you read the content of these messages, I think you'll come away proud that these are the leaders making these decisions.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, come on. It's not even here, let's see what this one is. This is another one that you guys sent me.
Now, I would think that there probably are worse people that you could text your secret plans to, but it appears that Goldberg has acted responsibly here in writing this article, and while he outs a lot of the process of what happened, he did not specifically publish.
Yeah, this is what I mean. He didn't like the fact that he was included is embarrassing enough for the administration, but like the way he navigated this was this story made the administration look good. It gave him props for being here. Okay, it gave him props for being a part of that conversation, and he gets to present himself as a journalist. But also, he didn't like actually embarrass them.
Publish the war plans as they apparently were transmitted to him by Pete Hegseth the morning of the attacks against the Houthis.
Okay.
Now,
yeah, he is pro State Department through and through. Like he's not a real journalist. He's a stenographer. Are you seriously suggesting that this administration has the forethought to plan this in advance? No, I don't. It's a really interesting situation because like they're so incompetent and so stupid that they could have accidentally done that. I mean, I'm serious. Like I get it. I totally understand why this could be like this is a situation that could have gone a lot worse for the administration, and it was a happy mistake that they went with someone who was so pro Trump regime and just so pro Trump State Department. And Trump wasn't on the call, but he wasn't on the Signal group chat. I don't think he knows how to operate Signal. Trump on the reported cabinet officials were discussing sensitive materials on Signal. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
The story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides have been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic report for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials. And
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
The Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it.
So effective. Isn't it damning that Goldberg's in the Trump admin Signal contacts? No, it's not. It's obvious. I mean, yeah, it is damning for Goldberg as much as it is damning for the administration, but it's also not surprising at all. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that it's not even remotely shocking that someone like Goldberg would get invited to the Signal group chat on accident because they have his number. Part of my skepticism over the idea that Goldberg was added to the chat by accident. If you're pro-Trump, all the people involved are shown as concentrated and dedicated to fighting Yemen and as saying the same things in public as they do in private. That's what I mean, exactly. Anyone who's concerned with national security by doing all this is in a Signal chat as a non-entity to the current Republican establishment. Everyone of influence with that opinion was purged years ago. It doesn't make him look bad at all. It doesn't make these guys look bad at all. It makes them look like they're serious professionals. They're consummate professionals engaging in professional conduct and dialogue, basically saying the same things that they would be saying off camera, but also saying the same things they'd be saying on camera. And the very fact that it's like Goldberg that was the person who was added to the conversation makes me feel like... It makes me feel like I just don't think that they have foresight. They don't have enough foresight to do this deliberately. But also, something about it doesn't sit right.
Policy toward the Houthis.
Well, look, this is a chain of command. It's provided so that our top officials can have that conversation as to whether or not.
I think people would be more angered that they were not secure enough. Yeah, I'm not angry. I don't care. I want them to be a leaky faucet. I don't give a shit about national security like that. Are you crazy? No. I want them to have all journalists. Put some real journalists in those group chats. You kidding me? You think I care? You think I give a shit about the American war plans being disrupted by the most incompetent administration of all time? No, I don't. I think it's great. It's awesome. The only thing that I'm upset about is that it was Goldberg that was CC'd. Yeah, they should CC me in it, dude. Put me on the group chats.
To conduct these war plans. So that there's no question this is legitimate. But what they're not paying attention to is that you've included somebody on the outside who has no business knowing about this information. There was a mistake here. Somebody on the Atlantic.
Like, of course, Leon Panetta is going to be mad because he does care about the incompetence. But he's the defense secretary. No shit, he's going to be mad. I'm not the defense secretary. I have an antagonistic opinion towards the American State Department and the American intelligence and American empire in general. So for that reason, I'm like, great. Yeah, keep being incompetent. Who gives a shit?
Got the most sensitive emails you can imagine at the federal level. That is a serious blunder. It has to be investigated, and somebody, frankly, needs to get fired.
Who do you think that is, sir?
Whoever put that chain together.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story.
So I want to see what they what else they were. So looking at it, bro, we got to go ahead and get it to at least 10,000. Okay, stop. So stupid. It's so stupid. It is the stupidest administration. God damn it. We're just so dumb. We're such a dumb admin. Oh my God. Check TMZ. Why? Yeah, it's Hillary Clinton is going, oh, you have got to be kidding me. Yeah, fuck Hillary Clinton.
Literally no
Guys,
one wants to know Hillary Clinton's.
I really need you to lock in. I already covered the Hamdan Bilal story. Okay, is the expectation that people will routinely trickle into the to the stream throughout the day to be like, why aren't you talking about Turkey, or why aren't you talking about Hamdan Bilal? I already did. I covered both of the stories for the past 2 hours. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. It's literally pinned on the chat. Please stop spamming. This is the I wish that they just like leaked all of them, like all of the text messages. I think it's silly that he didn't do that. And that's how you know he's not a real journalist. Does that make sense? This person, ex Wall Street Journal, Marketplace and Guardian reporter, doesn't believe that the official narrative is that this was leaked, or not leaked, sorry. The official narrative that this was accidentally conducted. Let's hear what she had to say. As a longtime fan of Signal, though seeing that our nation's premier foreign policy dipshits use it to plot their half-assed military plans is some kind of validation, I guess. Anyway, every leak is intentional. It's obviously not an accident to add a raging Zionist former Israeli prison guard to the "Here's How We Kill Israel's Enemies" group chat. BRB accidentally adding the nation's biggest loudmouth pro-Israel former IDF prison guard with a media empire to the disposal of the neocon group chat, bragging about using our power and violence against a country blocking Israeli ships. By the way, all our Republican pro-Israel donors have been complaining we're not doing enough for them. Ignore that part, though. Yeah, this is the one, like, I understand the skepticism here because that was my initial assessment as well. Because every single message here unironically reads like a CPAC talking point. It's written like a press release or a CPAC speech. I'm begging journalists to question the leak narrative. It's obviously intentional for public consumption. Like, it's interesting that there are very little slurs, very little gifs, jokingly, but also not joking, really. I think like in a real group chat, this would be in a real group chat, I think there would be a lot more open discourse about how, you know, how they're going to kill these dogs or whatever. Do you know how hard it is to add someone to a Signal group chat? It's highly intentional. It requires a couple screens of approval, and everyone in the chat can see when someone's added. If anyone is added or even changes their display name on Signal, the entire chat gets a notification. Additionally, all the messages before the person's addition are usually invisible to them. There's literally no way to add someone accidentally to a Signal group chat, and there's no way he can see messages he wasn't meant to see because they had to have been added after the notification he joined. This is what you see, what the entire group sees when someone is added to a Signal group chat. Yeah, but I think that was in the beginning. I think they just like set up the PC group chat with Goldberg in it. There are multiple barriers to inviting someone to a Signal group chat, and none of them are plausibly accidental or even secret. There are emails, invites, confirmations. I think in terms of like plausible explanation for this being accidental is that his name was like JG. His Signal name is JG, and they accidentally added the wrong JG. But because there's so much that was revealed from it that seems like a PR move to tell like the pro-Israel lobby, like, see, these are the considerations that we are making. No, not Jonathan Greenblatt chatter. Come on. No, the heads of the State Department are not going to add the president of the Anti-Defamation League into a conversation about bombing Yemen. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller proposes to extract economic gain from both Egypt and the EU if U.S. succeeds in opening the Red Sea by force. National Security Advisor Michael Wallace had previously proposed that Europe should foot the bill entirely. Account label Pete Hegseth posed a team update. I will not quote this from this update or from certain other subsequent texts. The information contained in them, if they had been read by an adversary of the United States, could conceivably have been used to harm American military intelligence personnel, particularly in the broader Middle East, Central Command's area of responsibility. What I will say, in order to illustrate the shocking recklessness of the Signal conversation, is that Hegseth's post contained operational details of forthcoming strikes on Yemen, including information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attack sequencing. Yeah. Oh. This is bullshit, like a lottery employee winning the lottery? Yeah. I don't know.
The left, or the Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just, smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged... there's some kind of mental illness thing going on here.
So everyone, it's happening. It's a very sad day for Elon Musk. Top Tesla investor Ross Gerber has officially called for Elon Musk to step down as the head of Tesla.
I think we all make choices with our time, and Elon doesn't get more than 24 hours a day just because he's Elon. So we make choices. All of us do. Do we spend time with our family? Do we go golfing? Do we work? And how we do this is, each individual chooses. And so Elon chooses to work, all the time, but you can only work so many hours a day. So that's 24, right? And he sleeps. So there's no question he's been committed to his job at the government. That's where he's spending his time. He is not running Tesla. And, that's why I'm going to say it. I think Tesla needs a new CEO. And I decided today I was going to start saying it. And so this is the first show that I'm saying it on. It's time for somebody to run Tesla. The business has been neglected for too long. There's too many important things Tesla is doing. So either Elon should come back to Tesla and be the CEO of Tesla and give up his other jobs, or he should focus on the government and keep doing what he's doing, but find a suitable CEO for Tesla.
So you are saying essentially if he's not prepared to quit that government job, he needs to go?
Yeah, I think it's time.
This obviously comes on the back of Teslas being vandalized across America, Tesla dealerships being set on fire across the world, and just a general massive protest against the fascist Elon Musk. But weirdly enough, he's taking it really, really badly because we all know this dude is just such a fragile man-child. And he wants to be liked, and he basically wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. He wants to be the supervillain, gutting the federal government to make more money available for his like Starlink projects or SpaceX. At the same time, he wants Tesla to not suffer any consequences, and he also wants people to love him at the same time. Because we've seen his interviews where he's basically on the verge of tears talking about this stuff. And I want to talk about this today because I do believe there is a part of him, maybe 10 minutes in the day, that his mind actually works properly amongst the ketamine haze and not being able to sleep, that he knows that he's killing Tesla and he's sacrificed Tesla for more political power. Because if you asked anyone rational who was in the pursuit of political power or being a supervillain, if you could do all this shit to enrich yourself even more and get your companies more in bed with the federal government, like Starlink and SpaceX, but you're gonna have to destroy your car company, most people would say that's a good deal. Like, I'm gonna destroy this company, and yeah, sure, I'm gonna take some hits in terms of my own personal fortune, which is tied up in Tesla stock, but I'm actually gonna make myself more powerful. That seems like a calculation most supervillains would make, and you think most supervillains wouldn't really think twice, but it feels like with Elon Musk, it's like Thanos when Gamora asked him if he like achieved his goal of like doing the snap, and he said it cost him everything, so of course he sacrificed his own daughter for it. It feels like Elon feels more like that, where it's actually really hurting that people are both attacking Tesla, and these attacks being an expression of their hate on him personally. And as we remember, after he got booed at that Dave Chappelle show, apparently he was crying loads afterwards. And I want to talk about all this today because it's pretty clear Elon is very unstable mentally, and in that his logic towards this stuff is so incoherent and inconsistent that even though I still believe it is a calculated thing he's doing, he just cannot handle the emotional backlash. But that was part of his villain origin story anyway, his embarrassing need to be liked. And I am just so sick and tired of the dystopian future we're living in being so, I wouldn't call it disappointing, but when you grow up as a kid or a teenager or a young adult, you consume a lot of media with a lot of villains, a lot of dystopian fiction focuses on like these very cunning, evil geniuses who essentially are like the ultimate poker player, and they manipulate everyone to achieve their own ends through their sheer brilliance. That's the villain we've been sold in media. The future is so much dumber. It's three men going through a midlife crisis and for various different reasons basically destroying our minds, and in some cases destroying a whole country like Elon Musk with the US for profit and in their desperate attempt to be liked by a certain group of the population. We have old Zuckerberg going from looking like an android to dressing like this, colonizing Hawaii so he can have a ranch, to have his own range of beef. Then we have obviously Jeff Bezos, who again is completely complying with Donald Trump and is going through his own midlife crisis as well. And then we just have Elon Musk, who's just like the most unhinged and having like a mental breakdown while just doing like terrible shit every day, spending all day on Twitter, paying people to game for him so he can be in with the gamers, and just desperately caring what people think of him, despite the fact he is literally like the most powerful man in the world at this point in terms of his political influence and his vast amounts of wealth. And again, disappointing. Where are my competent evil supervillains? Why is it all pathetic people that no one would trade places with? Like, would any of you want to be any of these people? So all of that coming up for you today. Please support me on Patreon or YouTube memberships, and follow me on social media at The Tabernacle on BlueSky and Instagram. So we all remember a recent Fox News interview where Elon Musk got very emotional, basically being asked about Tesla and stuff and getting really upset.
But I just was looking back. Let me see if I get this right. They're setting fire to various Tesla charging stations near Boston. Shots were fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon, New York, marching against the Tesla showroom. Your stock is way down. You've been criticized left and right. Call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean...
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress.
What is funny is this wasn't like a one-off moment. He's like doubled down, and obviously we saw the whole Republican elite have like basically turned into Tesla promoters. We had the White House and that desperate, pathetic display of Donald Trump fulfilling the calling that he was born to do of being a used car salesman. And then we had people like Sean Hannity saying they're buying Teslas, loads of people saying this. But he gave a little speech where he spoke about this recently, and let's go into that before we talk about the new Fox News interview.
Teslas will be available worldwide. So overall, you know, it's good. If you read the news, it feels like, you know, Armageddon. So like, I can't walk past the TV without seeing a Tesla on fire. You're like, what's going on? You know, some people, it's like, listen, I understand if you don't want to buy our product, but you don't have to burn it down. That's a bit unreasonable, you know. Like, this is psycho. Stop being psycho. Okay.
And he went on Fox News to complain about this to Sean Hannity, and it's just so funny how clearly hurt he is by the protest and by the backlash.
It turns out when you take away people's, you know, what the money they're receiving fraudulently, they get very upset, and they basically want to kill me because I'm stopping their fraud, and they want to hurt Tesla because we're stopping this terrible waste and corruption in the government. And well, I guess they're bad people. Bad people will do bad things. I think they're getting desperate because, I mean, the reason we're seeing this extreme amount of hatred and violence is because we're actually succeeding in getting rid of corruption.
Is that the most brilliant thing we can get out of the mouth of the richest man in the world? Bad people do bad things. You're the richest person in the world. What do you think, like, the rich, like, my God. The expectation of the richest person in the world, like, opening their mouth and just amazing shit coming out. Bad people do bad things. Rich asshole, dumb fuck. Give me his money. Give me his fucking money. I would do so much more with it. And I ain't nobody. I'm no genius. I'm not gonna fucking fake and say I'm a genius. I would do better than this fucking asshole. Fuck you.
Waste. If we weren't succeeding in getting rid of corruption and waste, they wouldn't care. But we are succeeding. Thanks. Without President Trump, this would be impossible. So I'd just like to say, you know, it's only possible with this president.
I have to ask, why? Why do I see people like I woke up this morning and saw that Teslas were put ablaze in one of your dealerships in Vegas? I've seen this happen all over the country. Bullets are being fired. Charging stations are put ablaze.
I mean, I don't recommend this, but I, picture in my head Molotov cocktails being head. Tesla's driving down the street.
Teslas are being put ablaze. You have experienced assassination, threats of assassination for you and your family. What have you done that warrants this? Because I see nothing that you've done except help our country.
Yeah, I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level
for more. He deserves worse than everything he's getting.
And violence from the left. I always thought the left, or the Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just, you know, smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged. There's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and I think there are larger forces at work as well. I mean, I don't know who's funding it and who's coordinating it, because this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this.
So yeah, it's clear Elon
That's
is
some
very
ableist
hurt by
language
this.
right there.
And I
Everyone
do
from the
think there's
richest
a part
man
of
in the
him
world.
who is kind of shocked at the backlash.
What
He
a
does
fucking
know
piece
he's
of
trying to run
shit. We should
America
probably
like a
fucking
tech
be-
startup, and he is destroying millions of lives, unleashing
Broken down to
these
biofuel.
sycophantic Gen Z staffers to just destroy the country, and that's what he's doing. Donald Trump is allowing him to do this, and he is getting so butthurt that people are visibly hating him. And I think the main part of it is he doesn't care so much about Tesla as, like, I don't think he gives a shit about the car so much. He cares about it as an expression of hatred against him. Like, he's saying, I've never done anything bad to anyone. The company has never done anything bad to anyone. First of all, both fucking bullshit. My first video about Elon Musk when I was like 22 on this channel was about how Tesla is a fucking terrible company to work for because they're union busters and they treat their employees like shit, and it's actually leads to loads of them getting injured working for Tesla. Like, it's always been a terrible company. And then you've always been a terrible person. You've hurt so many people, and especially recently, you've actually set America on a trajectory which is going to destroy the lives of potentially like millions of people. And you're only crying because people are firebombing Tesla dealerships. But let's just end this talking about Elon himself a bit more. So if you guys don't know, Elon Musk's dad hates him, and I've made a video about like the Musk family, and to be fair, his dad is terrible, and he did have a terrible relationship with his father. But sometimes when I heard his dad speak about Elon, I kind of like agreed with what he was saying. So there's one example where Elon ended up, I think, in hospital because a kid had pushed Elon down the stairs when he was at school. I think it was like a private school. The dad comes in and like asks the school, like, what did he do? Like, no way my son could have deserved this. And then they said, yeah, he bullied the kid about their dead mum. So the kid pushed him down the stairs. And the dad was like, he deserved it. He deserved it. It just seems like Elon has always been a person who is insanely devoid of empathy for anyone. And it's also clear he has also sought so much validation from just anyone. Could be a result of his father, but who the fuck knows? Only his therapist could know. But even with everything he's done since he's been in the public eye, everything to do. Remember that Thai diver stuff where he's saying, we're going to save the kids, and then call the guy who actually rescued them a nonce? That was back in 2018, by the way. So it's always been stunts and attention seeking. And fundamentally, he's just always wanted attention on himself. And he doesn't have the self-awareness to realize how embarrassing he is, realize how cringy he is. So he does stuff that the most pathetic person in your life would do to be liked. So he pays people to play video games on his account to make him seem like he's the best gamer ever. He does that. He constantly tweets under random ass accounts glazing him and defending him from criticism. I wouldn't be surprised if he begged Donald Trump to do that stupid showcase or promised him something like in terms of money, because that's how desperate and pathetic he is. So I say all that to say, while I firmly believe Elon Musk has sacrificed Tesla at the altar of becoming a supervillain and becoming so powerful, at the same time, the reason he's having such an unhinged reaction to Tesla's decline is because he just wants to be liked. Fundamentally, he is a child who wants to be told he's doing a good job, and he cannot understand why people even hate him. Despite all the terrible shit he's doing, despite all the lives he's ruining, despite how controversial he is, he can't understand why people hate him so much. And that goes beyond the fact that he has self-radicalized himself on Twitter. Like, he was always a bad guy politically. You couldn't call him a fascist for most of his adult life. Like, you genuinely couldn't. I know people would say he's always had banned politics, his grandfather was actually a fascist and stuff, which I've made videos on. Yeah, he has, but you couldn't say that because he wasn't one. And remember, this guy endorsed Joe Biden for president over Donald Trump as well. What happened is he just became self-radicalized. And we see that with people like J.K. Rowling as well. Like, not to say these people aren't terrible people, but Elon and her, they spend all their time on Twitter reading all this shit about them, constantly going down these rabbit holes and facing dog piles where they just radicalize themselves into a far-right ideology, which they constantly now espouse, and they firmly made themselves into full fascists. But in Elon's case, that came out of his desperate need to be liked by people, and that's why he just does so many pathetic stunts, which to us, they're so cringe-inducing. And even like the stuff with the Nazi salute, Like, he did that for attention. It wasn't an expression of pure, like, Nazi fanaticism on his part, despite the fact he agrees with most of that ideology. He did it for attention on 4chan. That's why he did it. He wanted to be talked about. That's why he was making all the jokes afterwards. And that is why this hurts him so bad. And that's why he's crying so much about Tesla going down, because he just can't handle the backlash. And like I said, any calculating supervillain would do this emotionlessly. Like, I am going to trade Tesla for this power, but not him. He's so upset about people doing all these terrible things and saying all these terrible things about him, and just this huge public expression of, we hate you. If a guy can't handle being booed at a comedy show, do you think he can handle people all firebombing things, saying, this is because I hate you so much? And that's like millions of people around the country being like, I agree with this happening. Of course he can't handle it. So that's why it's not even a meltdown. It's just like it's just like him crying and being like, I've never hurt anyone. I've never hurt anyone. Why are you doing this to me? I mean, I'm not going to promise this, but this will probably be the end of my Tesla coverage, unless there's something like really insane that happens, and the end of my Cybertruck coverage. Not the end of my Elon coverage, sadly, which is annoying because I would love to never speak about this guy again. And like I said, I have to be constantly reminded that all the supervillains in the world are just the most pathetic, insecure men having a midlife crisis after they turn 40 or 50. And collectively in the world, we have to experience the effects of one person's midlife crisis as it like destroys a country or the planet. So that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.
Went there. So these are groups that only exist due to Israeli aggression, due to Israeli oppression, due to Israeli genocide, due to Israeli settler colonialism. It's a circular logic, isn't it? Israel does settler colonialism, Israel does genocide, Israel brutalizes people, Israel seals their land, Israel ethnically cleanses them, Israel forces them into concentration camps, Israel continues today to settle and attack their land, take as much as it possibly can from them, to brutalize them. Those people form groups out of whatever little they have, whatever little they can do to fight back against that rather than just dying on their knees. And Ethan Klein uses the resistance that is bred by what Israel does to justify what Israel is. It's this idiotic circular logic of perpetuating genocide, of perpetuating settler colonialism, of perpetuating the situation. Israel is framed as like this poor little baby boy that out of no fault of its own is now hated by these damn Islamist terrorists for no reason whatsoever, somehow not mentioning the situation that these supposed evil Islamist terrorists even cropped up in. It's literal Nazi logic. We invade these people, we kill them, we steal their land because they are subhuman and we don't want them there and we want them gone. They form resistance groups and they fight back against us. That resistance proves how barbaric and subhuman them are, ergo, we are more justified in what we're doing. Brilliant logic, dude. Really smart, really great pro-Palestinian brain, pro-Palestinian voice you are. Presenting groups that only exist as a result of Israeli oppression and colonization, as themselves justifying the Israeli oppression and colonization. Ridiculous. This narrative that he's trying to spread here of like supposed Jewish peril in Israel being justified by these supposedly like anti-Semitic groups who want to genocide all the Jews or whatever, is, as I said, totally circular because he acts like these people just popped out of the ground one day wanting to blow up Israel, ignoring the circumstances of their existence. I want to note as well, like, how ready and willing Ethan is to frame basically any Arab or Muslim who he sees as like little more than a terrorist motivated by nothing more than like religious bloodlust. With the IDF, with Israel, you know, it's really complicated. Like, can you expect anything more from them? After all, they're besieged by these evil Islamic terrorists, and Israel and the IDF are obviously the aggressors. But with these people, like Hamas, Hezbollah, these groups that only exist as a reaction to Israel, to the atrocities of Israel, to the crimes of Israel. It's just, oh, they're just Jew-hating terrorists. There's really nothing more there. There's nothing more that caused this. Just clear racism. And it gets worse throughout the video.
Jewish state. And considering the historical context of Jews being pogromed from Arab countries, is it
lie
really that crazy for
as I went over
them to not feel safe as an ethnic minority, even a little bit?
Okay, so Ethan Klein is justifying ethno-nationalism there. Ethan Klein thinks that if you feel unsafe as an ethnic minority, you get an ethno-state. So he claims that he's pro-Palestine, he claims that he's not a Zionist, yet there you have him straight up justifying the existence of Israel with this narrative of Jewish peril. So I guess if you feel unsafe as an ethnic minority, which, to be clear, isn't true. Jews live in the US, in France, in wherever the fuck else, and they're safer there than they are in Israel because Israel is a colonial state. Colonialism breeds resistance. Obviously, they are way, way safer than their Palestinian victims, don't get me wrong. But the notion that Israel is legitimized by this Jewish safety argument when you could go live in New York when you were born in the USA is fucking ludicrous. And it's, as I said, just a circular logic as well. Aren't we justified in feeling unsafe as an ethnic minority? Because the people who have been victimizing, massacring, genociding, the people whose very land, whose very country we stole in order to form ours, because they hate us, doesn't that legitimize our existence? Doesn't that further legitimize everything that we've done to them? Circular logic, as I've been saying.
And that's pretty much the entirety of our disagreement. Despite what you've read on TikTok and Twitter, I've donated $6,500 to a Palestinian charity after the war
You're a millionaire, dude. No one cares.
started.
Hey, Ethan Klein, thank you for the dono. Ethan Klein gave $6,500. My goat. Thank you, Ethan.
Condemned Netanyahu as a war criminal. They're led by Netanyahu.
This is just like he's trying to frame himself in a positive light, and he's still making it clear that he's not pro-Palestinian.
Who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal, called the West Bank settlements an abomination. Settlers in the West Bank are religious zealots, they're monsters, they're genocidal. I've even said
It's not true. Most of them aren't religious.
West Bank settlers are valid military targets. When you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff, like that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now.
I just want to address this right after he's
And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion. My only crime.
Ethan, if settlers in the West Bank are valid military targets, which to be clear, I don't even explicitly agree with that. Like, I understand why Palestinians might target them. I mean, they're fucking stealing your land and homes. Would you not be angry at them? Would you not attack them? However, calling them valid military targets, like in their entirety, I don't know, man. I think military energy would be much better spent on attacking, you know, the actual soldiers, if possible. However, it is completely out of line and logically incomprehensible to say that you think West Bank settlers are military targets, but you think the Gaza envelope that was attacked on October 7th was little more than an anti-Semitic massacre of Jewish civilians. Because most West Bank settlers aren't even like on the front line, like they're behind a wall that separates them from Palestinians. There's not really any easy access to them. The ones on the front line who are like actively trying to steal even more land, those are like the really bad ones, right? Do you know what the Gaza envelope is? Let me show you a map. So the Gaza envelope is basically what was attacked on October 7th. And there is like encirclement of settlements surrounding Gaza, like here, you know, all around it. And these settlements explicitly exist because in 1948, and I have another video on this, I've gone over all of this shit already, trust me. In 1948, what Israel did is they expelled everyone from this area here and also from a lot of other places. They expelled them to Gaza, and then they sort of created a perimeter around it of settlements and military bases in order to keep them in. So the settlements that surround Gaza are built on like the ruins of Palestinian villages, Palestinian houses, and they specifically exist to provide Israel with a first line of defense, a shield against Palestinians from Gaza trying to go back to the places that they were expelled from. Again, this video that I have on that is a very in-depth video about that. The IDF was assigned to determine the location of new settlements around Gaza, which would be integrated into the territorial defense system in order to basically defend against Palestinians. Essentially, these settlements exist as colonial frontier human shield settlements in order to keep Palestinians confined into Gaza. They are the front line of defense, which is why there's so many military bases all around them. And quite simply, those who choose to live in these settlements are way worse than most West Bank settlers. Even worse. I'm not saying West Bank settlers are good. They are crazy maniacal murderers, colonial settler maniacs. But people who live in the Gaza envelope settlements are worse than most of them. You have to be something of a settler colonial maniac to actively choose to live in a place that exists to make you sort of a human shield against the victims who were expelled so that your settlement could be built on the ruin of their land, on the ruin of their own. People from these settlements are noted for their particular sadisticness in, for example, whenever Gaza is bombed, they set up like couches and get their binoculars out so they can watch the Palestinians being massacred. So it doesn't make any sense for Ethan Klein to say that West Bank settlers are fair game and then try to frame October 7th as little more than like an inexplicable attack on Jews being Jews by like Palestinians who sprouted out of the ground as while being anti-Semitic. If October 7th had happened in the West Bank, Ethan Klein would be equally against it as he is against it coming from Gaza. And I think it's ridiculous that he pretends otherwise. It's ridiculous that he would say something like that he clearly does not believe in, just to try and frame himself as pro-Palestinian, as if we all can't see like the broader context of what he has said before and what it means about his ideology and what he openly said in this video. He's a two-statist because he believes that a Jewish majority needs to be maintained because Palestinians are a demographic threat and they cannot be allowed to have a higher number in the population than Jews because, oh, we'll massacre them. They're innately anti-Semitic. We can't trust them. We will be unsafe. We'll be unsafe living beside our victims. We need to keep them out even more. Like, what a joke, man.
Is wanting a two-state solution instead of one.
So this is like just people calling him racist and stuff, calling him a Zionist. There's nothing wrong with any of these messages. These are all accurate. Like he's just pissed that people accurately clocked him and that we can also all see through his bullshit claiming that he's like actually pro-Palestinian just because he's against Netanyahu because he used the word genocide once or twice. As if we haven't seen him arguing with everything else that I've gone over with his slimy whitewashing of the Nakba. I mean, he's obviously a Zionist. I don't need to go on here. He's obviously a Zionist, and he thinks that just because he says he's like a liberal Zionist instead of like a Netanyahu-style Zionist, that makes it okay. By the way, guess what? I have another recent video all about liberal Zionism and why it's crap and bullshit that you should definitely check out. If you're going to watch any of the videos that I recommended you of mine here, check this one out. It's called Jewish Exceptionalism, Liberal Zionism, and Jewish Supremacy. And it will explain a lot of the stuff here regarding Ethan Klein's ideology, because he is precisely the sort of person who this video is about.
And thinking it's not okay to kill Israeli civilians. That's it. That's why they're calling me a Nazi Zionist.
You said it was okay to kill Israeli civilians in certain contexts, like the West Bank. As I just said. So apply that logic to the Gaza envelope, which is way worse than the West Bank in most cases.
And because of Hassan and others spreading this malicious lie about my beliefs, I'm even getting harassed on the street.
So how come you don't like Palestine?
I like Palestine.
No, you don't.
Why do you say that?
Because, bro, you're... wasn't she in the IDF?
Yeah.
Oh.
Disgusting. She was in the IDF.
Oh, damn, that's crazy.
Mandatory service.
That's sad.
Nothing mandatory about it. You can refuse. It's quite easy to refuse. The penalty for refusing is like 3 months in prison. Way better than helping to massacre babies, isn't it? I've been over this before. Don't worry. I've been over this before. Oh my God, it's just endless shit. No, I mean, I don't know. This is taking too long, man. I feel the need to respond to every little thing because it's all such bullshit and wrong. I need to stop that impulse. It's too much.
That's terrorism, bro.
She was born there.
That's sad.
She's born there, so it can't be terrorism, I guess. Well, Hamas was born there. Are they terrorists?
For you guys. Ethan Klein, bro, you're ugly as fuck, bro. You're ugly as shit. You look like a rapist.
Look in the fucking...
You look like a fucking rapist, Ethan. Feel bad for you guys. Ethan Klein, bro, you're ugly as fuck, bro. You're ugly as shit. You look like a rapist.
I say nothing wrong with this. Nothing that he said is wrong.
Bro, I'm tired of all these coward Americans in the South trying to act like they're so tough. Oh, I'm American. Oh, you don't even run your own country. You don't run your own country, bro. You don't run your own country. A foreign country named Israel runs your country.
Okay, this guy's a dumbass, actually.
Oh my God.
What he said in the first clip was not wrong, though. Now, obviously, Israel does not control the USA. The USA, if anything, controls Israel. But that just makes a lot of Ethan Klein's arguments worse because, like, he tells people to vote for Biden in spite of Biden fully supporting the genocide when Biden could, with a phone call, force Israel to stop it whenever he wants. He has that power easily. You know, he could threaten to withdraw all military support, all military supply. He could threaten to just straight up like invade them, attack them or something. He didn't do that, did he? So obviously the USA is the one who controls, the one who, if anything, controls Israel. And this guy is just, Ethan's like, look at this guy, right? Guilt by association. Here's a clip of Hassan with this guy who harassed me, apparently. Everything that he said to you was correct. Call harassment if you want. He's not wrong.
Can I give you a hug, bro?
I'm so sweaty, bro.
I love you, bro.
I'm so sorry.
Is Hassan supposed to know who this guy is?
I love you, bro. I have to interview you. You're my hero, bro. I love you. Bro, you're the coolest guy in the world, bro. Hold on, I think I look gay.
This guy likes Hassan. Ethan, do you know the people who like you? If you want to do guilt by association, let's talk about your guilt by association with Destiny, the sex criminal, and like hundreds, thousands of his fans, Ethan.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hold on, I think I look gay now.
Okay.
The funny thing about me, I don't like terrorism, and I don't like terrorists. If they're
You're married to a terrorist. You're married to a terrorist, Ethan Klein.
Jews, Christians, Muslims, they're all bad. What is terrorism? It's intentionally targeting civilian population for political goals.
That's Israel. You just described Israel.
That's what Ela
Your wife
did
is
in
a member of the
Ramallah.
IDF. Call her a secretary if you want. Do you think that a secretary for the Hamas military wing would not be a terrorist? You would think they would be a terrorist 100%. So why is a secretary for the IDF not a terrorist? Not to mention that, but as we went over in the clip earlier, she was like a logistical employee who was far removed from the front line. She found that boring, so she asked to be transferred to somewhere with more action, and they sent her to the occupied West Bank, where she was worked directly under the regional commander in charge of doing terrorism against Palestinians in the West Bank in Ramallah. And that was still not fun enough for her, so she asked to go on an outright terrorist raid. If that's your definition of terrorism, then your wife is a terrorist. It's that simple.
I don't like it, none of it. And over time, I started to learn that my co-host, he really likes terrorists.
They do musicals. They're very musical people.
I want him to try to explain how these people are terrorists. I want to see him actually argue for that without just appealing to people already thinking they're terrorists because they're Arab. I want him to argue for why these people are terrorists and why Hila Klein is not. Because if these people are terrorists, Hila is a mega extra, like omega terrorist.
Serious? Dog, what do you look? You think I made this? Isn't I know they're singing, but I'm seeing this guns and shit. This isn't a music video, Hassan. Taking over these ships, they started targeting people on this helicopter right now. Yes, they're streaming this. Yeah, they're flexing. What? And they're coming in hot with guns. Yeah, but you have to understand, this is a deterrent. We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
Do we like them or no?
He just said that the Houthis he put an ISIS flag next to Luffy from that anime or whatever. It's funny how I know the name of the character but not the anime. But like to say, One Piece, that's it. To try and say that the Houthis are the same as ISIS when the Houthis literally fought ISIS. Fucking moron.
I don't have an issue with them, let's just say. But they are a terrorist organization. Like they're designated. They are designated by the American states as a terrorist organization.
I do not.
Cuba was designated by the U.S. state as a state sponsor of terrorism. Does that mean that Cuba is a terrorist organization? Whether someone is a terrorist or not is not decided by whether the U.S. government designates them as such, okay? That's a simple fact. The U.S. government is a geopolitical actor. It's going to designate whoever the fuck it considers its enemies as terrorists. That's why it considered Nelson Mandela a terrorist until 2008. It means fucking nothing. If your evidence is the U.S. government says so, then you are so lobotomized I don't even know why I'm bothering to respond to you.
I like them then. Well, he is regarded as a pretty brilliant a person in terms of like everything that he's done.
Then I saw clips like this where Hassan is explaining how he's hiding his
He doesn't actually tell us why they're terrorists.
power level to funnel in normies into radicalization.
I think that in the short term, in order to combat against that, you have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda. You want America, in the way that I feel about it, and if you want America to get out of the way for places with more revolutionary potential to do what they would normally do, I think that, one thing you have to do is advocate for a lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda that goes beyond,
Right,
social democratic idea.
I just wanted to put emphasis on the exact point of the so-called radicalization funnel, where, for example, Hassan and JT catch them while they're young, as they say, and then they start looking into this new idea, etc., and then move forwards through the funnel, get more and more informed, get more and more radicalized.
Is Ethan just presenting to us by default this idea that having radical politics, radical leftist politics, is bad, and we're just supposed to take it as being bad? What about what Hassan actually has said is wrong? He just presents everything as self-evident. As I was like, is he going to explain to us how these people are terrorists? Is he going to explain to us why they're wrong and why Israel, who they are opposed to, is right? He's not. He just skips over everything. He doesn't make arguments. He just shows clips, and maybe for 1 out of 10 of the clips, he actually responds to them.
You do your part in the funnel for the cause, or whatever the fucking call you're doing, in my modest opinion, a great thing for the cause.
Now listen to Hassan during our very first conversation lie to me about how he's a social democrat to hide his power level.
We should move towards a Sweden-style economy or a Norway-style economy, which would be a social democracy.
He's not lying, though.
You have to.
But he's not lying about that here. He's not lying about shit. That he's like a gradualist. Like he believes in like he said we should move to a social democracy. How does that mean that he's not also a socialist, right? There's lots of people who are like this who believe that like, you know, you should have short-term goals that are more realistic and eventually you will move towards something that you want more that you want, right? Like you surely understand that, Ethan Klein. Don't you advocate voting for Joe Biden even though he does genocide? Don't you understand compromising the short term for supposed long-term benefits? Which isn't even on the same plan as what Hassan is saying here, by the way. But like, you're presenting this as a gotcha as if Hassan hides who he is. He does not. If anything, Hassan is not radical enough, by the way.
For a much lighter form of propaganda.
With robust social safety nets.
Cold radicalization funnel, catch them while they're young, as they say.
And protections for workers
This is like unhinged conspiracy theorist shit, dude.
Higher unionization rates.
A lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda that goes beyond social democratic ideas.
Hell, he's proclaimed it loudly that he is a self-described propagandist.
I'm a propagandist.
And?
All I can see is the jet
You think you're not a propagandist, even though you don't say it? You like admit it.
Idiot.
Admit it.
Look at my beautiful
like, propaganda is not
fucking
a negative term. It just means that you advocate for certain ideas.
No, I'm not calling it propaganda.
Only really in English does propaganda have this negative connotation.
Just saying. I'm saying I am. Okay, well then I'm saying I am. I just want to even play it.
A propagandist is much more than someone with a bias. It's someone who knowingly lies to further their
No, it's not.
political agenda.
And then I had a terrifying vision.
Propagandist is someone who spreads propaganda for certain political ideas. That's all that means. Propaganda can also, in other languages like Spanish, it can also just mean like an ad. Like a shampoo ad can be called propaganda. That's all that it means.
Had I been duped? Was Hassan presenting a Trojan horse to my community where he was just a left-wing...
Had you been duped? You're a 40-year-old fucking man. This is one of the people with the most documented existences alive today. Had you been duped by him, you're acting like you're a poor little baby boy who was groomed into like a gang or something against your will. When you're talking about like you made a podcast with this guy who is one of the most documented human beings in existence today.
Democrat like myself, and as he said in the previous video, was funneling them into radicalization and turning them against me.
Liberals are some of the easiest to manipulate people on the fucking planet, dude.
I learned how much he hates liberals.
Dude, I hate
context, please. Thank you.
Half of these clips are probably from like years before you even made the podcast with him. What's wrong with hating liberals, by the way? Liberals are the biggest snakes in the world. You're a great example of that because you claim to be pro something that you're not, and you try to like shift the needle to the point where like you're framing pro-Israel Zionist goals as pro-Palestinian, and that is so much worse than being like Netanyahu and just outright saying what you truly and unequivocally believe and who your ideas serve to benefit and who they serve to hurt. You're way worse as a liberal. You're way harder to fight as a liberal than the far right are, because you know Netanyahu is open and obvious about what he is. You believe in a lot of the same shit. Like 90% of the most important stuff that he believes in, you believe in, like maintaining a Jewish majority, maintaining a Jewish ethno-state, keeping Palestinians who you expelled out of your country. But you present yourself as being like fundamentally different to him based only on the other 10%. Like, okay, Netanyahu wants the rest of the West Bank. I don't think we should take the West Bank, though. That's it. Wow, man, you're so fundamentally different. You're definitely not a Zionist.
I hate them. I hate them so viciously.
Did he secretly despise me this whole time?
I'm sorry, dude. I hate liberals so much.
I mean, just from the clips that I've seen of that show, which most of which I've seen like during this, like Hassan treated Ethan like literally like a child. Like it was like Hassan's not even. I don't even have a great opinion of him, by the way. I mean, I'm gonna piss off his fans here, but I don't think he's the smartest political commentator in the world. I don't think he knows that much. But he makes Ethan Klein look like a baby. Literally, he makes Ethan Klein look like a 12-year-old learning about basic concepts for the first time. So it's so funny that he's like, was I duped here? Like, I mean, you were duped like in the same way that I guess like an 8-year-old is duped into believing that Santa Claus is real.
Did this man sit next to me for 2 years and pretend to be my friend?
Dude, liberals are a burden on this planet,
That's
dude.
Crazy.
Liberals are the most like
this is so negative that Hassan made it.
Gummy, vile, fucking idiots.
Liberals are incredibly stupid. I hate these petulant liberals, dumb fucking liberals.
What else is someone this sociopathic capable of?
Liberal?
Sociopathic how?
Ethan, are you a liberal or a social democrat?
Conspiracy framing, I love it.
Was I being manipulated this whole time?
That was my fear anyway, regardless of his true beliefs.
Poor little baby boy.
That broke my trust in him, and I pretty much ended the show immediately. And
you ended the show because you couldn't handle that you were being called out for being a pro-Israel Zionist. We know.
I felt guilty for my participation in mainstreaming Hassan. And for that, I apologize. I should have done more research, and I should have looked more deeply into who I was getting in bed with before they gave me chlamydia. Sorry, Hila. Over the past year since the show ended, I continue to watch Hassan.
I'm gonna make this faster because it's
supposed to be a joke.
Especially because my responses are far too in-depth, more in-depth than this.
Promote and propagandize terrorist organizations. And every time it happened on Twitch, I would say, man, this time surely he went too far, and someone's got to do something. But as the time went on, nothing happened, and his views got more and more radical and more disturbing. I feel it's my obligation, after mainstreaming someone like Hassan, to take this on. And so...
You didn't mainstream someone like Hassan. He's been mainstream. He's mainstream, actually mainstream. You aren't mainstream at all. You're a guy who has like a YouTube podcast where you talk about celebrity drama. Hassan's actually like featured in the mainstream media and stuff and has been for like 5+ years. Like, he was mainstreaming you.
It was war. Nuclear war.
I stand before you following the footsteps.
Okay, I'm not going to watch his like extremely supposedly funny intro that he probably paid someone to make, but I do want to note that after that he has an ExpressVPN sponsorship. Let's look at who ExpressVPN is. So ExpressVPN is a company that is owned by a certain Israeli businessman, Teddy Sagai. Teddy Sagai is a compulsive donator to the IDF. He has donated millions to the IDF, around at least 5 million from what I've been able to see. He attends like the Friends of the IDF gala. He's been doing this for decades. So basically, Ethan Klein's video is sponsored by a company owned by a fanatical genocidal Zionist who funds the IDF. Very much on brand. Couldn't expect much more from Ethan Klein, could ya?
ExpressVPN.com/H3HD for 4 free months. Or scan. I am here.
So this next part is all like just Ethan trying to be funny about Twitch and stuff. I'm gonna get to the part where he starts talking about the Houthis, who are like his example of Hassan Piker supporting terrorism.
Or that designer dog.
This breed's stunning fluffy coat comes with price. Chow Chows shed
fuck no. Very cute, by the way, but those are expensive. The point is, we have the biggest political streamer on our platform that is influencing media and influencing young kids everywhere. If we can normalize terrorism, if we could rebrand it, then fuck the U.S. Navy. You know how much
I want to get to him talking about supposed terrorism.
Take a look at a recent media analysis by Ad Fonte, which rated Hassan as the most extreme left-wing, untrustworthy media source on the...
I mean, dude, if Ad Fonte said so, I guess it's true, man.
Mike, let's start with our good friend Luffy here and his organization, the Houthis. And yes, this is what it looks like. They are hiling Hitler. The Houthis...
Firstly, Rashid is not a Houthi. He has clarified this many, many times. He's not a Houthi. He's just a Yemeni citizen. He might support the Houthis, but he's not a member of the organization. He's said this many times. There's no reason why we shouldn't take his word on this, any more than we shouldn't take Hila Klein's word on her only being a secretary in the IDF, Ethan, until you can provide any evidence otherwise. He is not a Houthi, and it's ridiculous that you keep saying so. Not that it would be bad if he was. It would be good. He's like, they are hiling Hitler. Dude, in the Arab world, the Roman salute is used all the time. There's nothing to do with Hitler. It's used quite simply as a normal salute. It was originally picked up by Pan-Arabism in like the 30s and the 40s, and it's just been sort of like a staple of certain like Arab armies and such ever since. Here is the normal Lebanese army, which is not the army that fights Israel, by the way. These guys do nothing. I don't even know why they exist. They never fight Israel. Here's the regular Lebanese army doing the Roman salute as well. In short, this is just a totally different context in the Arab world, and it has nothing to do with hailing Hitler. You dishonest piece of shit. Again, this is just emblematic of Ethan basically relying totally on narrativization. Like, he never tries to explain things, never tries to like provide evidence for his points. He just tells you what to believe and moves on if it's sort of self-evident. And most of the clips that he plays of like Hassan, he doesn't even try to respond to. It's ridiculous. It's pure narrative. It's preaching to a choir of morons, of lobotomized morons. His strategy here is not to actually deal with the facts. It's to try and convince the viewer that there are a bunch of negative associations that this Rashid guy has. Like, he's a Houthi, those are terrorists. He's a terrorist. He's not even a Houthi. And there's no explanation for how the Houthis are terrorists. Look, you know Hitler. Hitler's bad. These guys are doing a salute that looks oddly like the Hitler salute, right? Ignore the context and everything. They're hailing Hitler. That's his strategy here, because on the actual facts, he's going to fall over, as you'll see.
These are an Islamic military group. They're known for their cruel measures, forcibly recruiting child soldiers.
They're known for their cruel measures. Bunch of zero context headlines. You can read this one, for example, and this is an article by DW, which is obviously a German and thus incredibly unreliable. You can see in this article, for example, right there on the screen, it says that both the Houthis and the government do the same thing, and it's just criminal for him as well not to provide any context for how and why this might happen, like the fact that Yemen has been under a brutal assault by the Saudis, by his own country, the USA, and his other country, Israel, for the last more than a decade. What has happened in Yemen can accurately be described as a genocide, and he does not seem to want to mention this. He does not seem to want to mention who has been carrying out the genocide. It's not the Houthis, it's the Saudis. It's the Yemeni government who they back. This is like talking about how brutal the French resistance are in World War II without providing the context of who they were fighting, why they were fighting them, and the broader war. It's insane to do this. It's just so dishonest. It's such bullshit.
Shelling civilian areas and blocking food from entering already famine-ruined parts of Yemen.
It's insane, by the way, that he's blaming famine and starvation in Yemen on the Houthis without mentioning what the actual cause of that is. The Saudi blockade, which is still ongoing, by the way, the Saudi blockade against Yemen, ongoing since 2016, which is the actual cause of the famine in Yemen. You know, the Saudi blockade backed by the US and Israel, that blockade, as it says here on Wikipedia, for example, the main cause of the crisis is the ongoing Yemeni civil war. Aid cannot effectively reach the population because of the ongoing civil war and the blockade of Yemen by Saudi Arabia. To try and blame the Houthis for the famine imposed upon Yemen by the Saudis in two ways: by them backing the incredibly unpopular and illegitimate former Yemeni government, by them bombing the country, massacring people, obviously, and by them literally blockading the country and intentionally preventing food imports from entering. To blame that on the people who are fighting against them, to not even mention the context of any of this, is utterly fucking crazy. This guy is just a genocide supporter at this point. Like, this level of decontextualization of the Saudi-American genocide in Yemen, we can only assume that he supports it. Otherwise, why would he do propaganda like this for the fucking Saudi genocidal monarchy? There's no other possible reason.
They've also set up landmines in agricultural spots.
So I just want to note here that like half of Ethan's sources for this section basically just Saudi state propaganda. You can see here, this is ArabNews.com. Arab News is an English daily newspaper published in Saudi Arabia. It is owned by Prince Turki bin Salman Al Saud, the brother of the ruling Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. So this is literally Saudi state propaganda, dude. Dude, you uncritically cited a Saudi state propaganda article, an article released by the Saudi state at the height of the genocide in 2018 to claim that the evil Houthis were mining like everywhere to like intentionally kill civilians like a Batman supervillain or something. You know, this article that is based on them saying that they spoke to Yemen's army, aka the Saudi-backed illegitimate puppet government that the Houthis have been fighting. And they're the source for this, according to this newspaper owned by the brother of the fucking head of state of Saudi Arabia. Dude, he just uncritically cites fucking Saudi state propaganda against the people who are fighting against that genocide of Yemen. He does this multiple times. Just flashes a headline on the screen that he got from fucking Saudi state propaganda. And he accuses fucking Hassan of being paid. Dude, who's paying you? Because we know the Saudis actually pay people for this shit. Like, your conspiracy theory about the fucking Houthis paying Hassan to spread their propaganda is absurd. A conspiracy theory about you being paid by the Saudis is not. And especially you being paid by billionaire Zionist businessmen, which you factually have been due to your ExpressVPN sponsorship. You took money from someone who donated $5 million to the fucking Israeli Defense Force terrorist organization. So yeah, Saudi state propagandist Ethan Klein. Pro-genocide propagandist Ethan Klein, using Saudi state propaganda like Goebbels tier propaganda to legitimize the Saudi genocide of Yemen. Dude, if you're not going to analyze your sources, tell us why they're reliable, how they're not just propaganda. Obviously, Western countries who are aligned with the Saudis, given the Saudis are genociding Yemen, they're going to support the Saudi line on this, so you can't simply rely on every single fucking thing that you see reported on the Western media. But ultimately, he's saying all of this to avoid the main point here, which is that why do people support what the Houthis are doing in regards to the Gaza genocide? That's what this is actually about, which is the blockade that they declared and duly carried out until recently, very recently, until like a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago rather, against Israel and Israel-aligned shipping in order to try to do something to stop the Israeli genocide of Gaza. That is what Ethan is opposed to here. Even if the Houthis were like the absolute worst people in the world, which to be clear, they're not. Ethan Klein is someone who previously has made clear that he's a lesser evilist. He supports Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden does genocide, for example. He scolds people for not voting for Joe Biden, even. In the context of Yemen, the Houthis, even if all of this were true, they're still less bad than the Saudi-backed former government who they have deposed. They are still less bad than their enemies. So using your own logic, you should at least like begrudgingly support them until something better comes along. But you don't. this lesser evil logic is only ever applied to imperialist countries and never to their victims. You should think about why that is. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter how terrible they are. You know, Iran launches missiles at Israel in retaliation for what they do in Gaza, and I support that, but I'm certainly not pro-Iranian, like, government, even if the Houthis were terrible, horrible, evil people, as you're trying to claim. Their blockade against Israel for what it's doing in Gaza would still be just, would still be good, and I'm glad they're doing it. They're one of the few people in the world who are trying to do anything for Gaza. Gaza, a place besieged not just by Israel, but by all of the most powerful countries in the world who are supporting Israel. No one has taken any real action for them, aside from really Yemen and a tiny little bit of action taken by, like, Hezbollah. I guess the Hezbollah action fortunately was okay, I suppose, and Iran. And I do not really give a shit, honestly, about you splitting hairs about how bad these people are, because ultimately you don't care about how bad they are. What you're against is not that. What you're against is what is them taking action against Israel, because you were an Israeli Zionist ethno-nationalist. You were against them taking real action, trying to take action to stop a genocide in Gaza, trying to impose some sort of penalty on the countries carrying out said genocide and supporting it. That's ultimately what this is about, and we can't lose sight of that. This is bullshit. It's not what he's worried about here at all. He knows that the most difficult position here is actually arguing against the blockade and the merits of the blockade alone. So he's trying to, like, prime the viewer and poison the well by saying the people carrying out the blockade are bad. Look at all these bad things they do. Totally out of the context of why they're like this, why Yemen is so poor, the fact that the imperialist countries that he supports are a massive part of the reason for why the Middle East and Yemen in particular is relatively poor, and that said poverty is what breeds reactionary views and sentiments.
Virtually worthless. Women have virtually no rights, and homosexuality, of course, is punishable by death.
What do you fucking expect? Do you want these people living in abject fucking poverty in the midst of a fucking genocide to have, like, the most progressive, to be like enlightened women's rights advocates and legalize gay marriage or something? Dude, do you know what the best way to combat poverty in Yemen would be? For your country not to commit genocide there. For the USA and Israel not to have backed a Saudi genocide there. That's what would be the best way to combat this stuff in Yemen. To combat these regressive attitudes in Yemen. But you literally are not even going to mention any of that. You're in fact going to frame what is in large part due to the Saudis as the fault of the fucking Houthis. And worse, you're doing all of this by posting Saudi state propaganda and ultimately supporting the Saudi genocide of Yemen in doing so. You're siding with the Saudis here, who the Houthis mainly fight. Ethan, what happens if you're gay in Saudi Arabia? What do they do to women in Saudi Arabia, Ethan? Well, you just got by your fucking logic. Saudi Arabia also doesn't have the excuse for these reactionary views, given that it's not a poor country like Yemen is. How crazy it is that you're totally okay with spreading fucking Saudi propaganda when it's convenient for you in favor of that genocide of Yemen. You're totally okay with weaponizing the genocidal Goebbels der Stürmer propaganda designed to legitimize the genocide of Yemeni people put out there by Saudi Arabia, which executes gay people. And then you turn around and say, whoa, these guys are evil because they do the same thing that the people whose propaganda I'm spreading here also do. You're such a dumb motherfucker, Ethan Klein.
That lines up with leftist values. Now, just how little rights do women in the Houthis Yemen have? Well, according to
what
this,
the fuck do you know about leftist values?
Well, according to what, man? What is this? I'll tell you what it is. This is a headline, Anadolu Ajansi, which is Turkish state media. Now, this might surprise you. In Yemen, Turkey supported the US and Saudi-backed former Yemeni government that the Houthis have now overthrown. So obviously, Turkish state media is going to say something like this. Let's check out the evidence for this. It's based on a report. Let us look at, like, the website of one of the authors of this report. Now, just to be clear beforehand, obviously, sexism is going to be fucking rampant in a poor conservative country like Yemen, with or without the Houthis. And that is really to be expected because the way that Yemen is specifically a result of European colonialism, followed by now further European impositions onto Yemen via what has been a totally brutal genocidal campaign by Saudi Arabia and the US to essentially keep the country down as reprisal for them daring to try to overthrow the US-friendly government. It's more circular logic, right? Like, our imperialism is justified against these people because they have regressive social views, but those regressive social views are caused by poverty. Poverty which is imposed upon this country by the imperialism that ensures that these countries can never ever advance, can never ever get their people any sort of material alleviation from which generally, as Western countries themselves themselves have shown over their own material advancements over the last 100, 200 years or so, breed progressive social progress on things like women's rights and gay rights. Not in the USA anymore, though. Ethan justifies all of his hatreds with circular logic, where the result of the thing that he supports being done to these people justifies that thing being done to them. Imperialists are always like this. Look out for it. So let's just look at one of the organizations cited by this Turkish state media report, like the Coalition of Women for Peace in Yemen. Check out their website, and they have nothing regarding like who funds them. They won't tell you about that. I wonder why. It's 100% the Saudis. They're not going to tell you that, though. There's no legal obligation for them to do so because, you know, they run outside of the confines of like US law, which is where organizations would usually have to tell you this stuff, or EU law and stuff like that. So this organization is an initiative of Noura Al-Jari, who, according to her own About Me page here, was a member of the Ministry of Youth and Sports in Yemen, aka she was a former member of the outgoing Yemeni government, Saudi-backed government. And now she has formed this organization, which is called Women for Peace in Yemen. Now, you would think an organization that's for peace in Yemen would be like non-denominational, call out the atrocities of everyone. No. Specifically, it says here, our aim is to free women who have been arbitrarily detained by the Houthis. Only the Houthis. They don't care about anyone arbitrarily detained by the government, only the Houthis. It's almost like this organization barely even exists and is essentially just a propaganda front to, like, if you look at their social media handles, it's under Houthis. Under Houthis. It's all about opposing the Houthis, providing negative propaganda about the Houthis in English. They even have like a film, a trailer for a film, Detained Under the Houthis. It's like the entire point of this organization is just fairly lazy anti-Houthi propaganda for an English-speaking audience. I guarantee you, if you looked into like who funds this organization, who's really behind it, it would be Saudi Arabia. But don't worry, because he's about to cite another source soon enough that is much more directly and clearly Saudi Arabian. Like, he's basically citing negative propaganda in media with an incentive to provide negative propaganda about the Houthis, to tell you why the Houthis are bad, which, even if all of it were true, is the same shit that the previous government was doing and would not delegitimize what Ethan really has a problem with, which is their blockade against the genocide being carried out by Israel.
81 violations committed by Houthi rebels against women, including torture, rape.
Wow, it said that in the headline. It must be true.
And murder. So
Ethan does zero source analysis, zero critical analysis.
The Houthis have a very wholesome flag, as you can see here. It says, translated, Allah Akbar, death to America, death to Israel.
What's wrong with death to America and death to Israel? These are the two countries that have victimized the Middle East more so than anyone else. What's wrong with that? If you would be Middle Eastern, you wouldn't hate America and Israel, especially being dirt poor as most people in Yemen are. I don't know. I don't think you're human.
And a curse upon the Jews, and that's all of them, not just the ones in Israel. And of course,
do you know what Jew means to someone in the Middle East? All that they know about Jewish people is that there is a state that calls itself the Jewish state in Israel that brutalizes people in the name of what they say is Judaism and Jewishness. If that's all that you know about Jews, and you have a state that equates itself with Jews in general, and you take it at its word and you say, okay, well, I hate Jews then. Like, you have to at least put this within that context, but Ethan doesn't do that, does he? Here's what Israel does, okay? Israel brands people's faces with the Star of David. Here's a Palestinian man whose face was branded with the Star of David. Here's a salted field in Gaza with the Star of David in it. Here's another one, carved into the field with tank tracks. Israel is a country that claims that it's for Jews so much that the Israeli Supreme Court does not let Jews register their nationality on their identity card as Israeli because it says that doing so would undermine Israel's Jewishness because according to the Israeli state, Israelis don't exist, only Jews exist. So Israel is a state that says it's for Jews, by Jews, and carries out endless atrocities against everyone in the region, not just Palestinians, pretty much everyone they attack. And it does this while saying it's for Jews by Jews, as I just said. And Ethan Klein removes all of this context, because that's all of these people know about Jews. These people see Israel say, I'm murdering you because I'm Jewish, I'm genociding you because I'm Jewish, and they say, well, okay, I'll take you at your word. And for Ethan Klein, the problem isn't that Israel says and does those things. It's that these dirt poor people living under the boot of the worst imperialism in the world, some of the worst atrocities in recent modern history have been carried out in Yemen especially. And he's like, whoa, they say they hate Jews? Whoa. They must have just sprouted out of the ground, anti-Semitic. It's appealing to basically, like, as I said earlier, this ignorant idea in the West that that Jews are like perpetually like concentration camp inmates, basically. When in the context of Israel is a state that says we are Jewish, we do all of this for Jews, while massacring, genociding people. Leaving that context out, of something like this is utterly insane. It is utterly insane to expect like random poor people in Yemen or Palestine or whatever to see Israel doing that and to have like this enlightened perspective where they're like, no. Zionist and Jew is not the same. Particularly when you yourself equate Zionist with Jew. You do it all the time. I just want to show you a tweet that he showed earlier that I think I skipped over. So here Ethan Klein puts a tweet that Rashid Al-Khalad sent out saying, the execution that we carry out on all Zionists with a picture of like a guy impaled on a pike. Here's what Ethan Klein said about it.
To kill Jews and put their heads on pikes.
So apparently, according to Ethan, he said that he wants to kill Jews and put their heads on pikes. The tweet says the execution that we'll carry out on all Zionists. So Ethan Klein is himself equating Zionists with Jew. And he's not anti-Semitic for that, apparently. Yet other people who take Israeli Zionists at their word that they represent all Jews and do the same, they are anti-Semitic. It's fine for him, but it's not fine for them. And this guy, by the way, he does differentiate between Jews and Zionists. He's posted a long thread. He shouldn't have had to. A long post on Twitter where he explained that he doesn't hate Jews, he just hates Zionists. He said, I would like to clarify that any Jewish person, Christian or Muslim, or any other who is innocent, we will never hurt them. We protect and ask them what they want. We stand for the oppressed, which is why we oppose Zionism. It is Zionist ideology that is wreaking havoc upon innocent Palestinians and Lebanese. This guy is a 19-year-old who grew up in a country destroyed by war, attacked everywhere by some of the most powerful countries in the world, and he gets this. Ethan Klein doesn't. Embarrassing.
And of course, victory to Islam. I get amused when these terrorists are like, we hate Jews, we want to kill Jews, and then people like Hassan are like, you're a fucking racist.
Dude, why are they terrorists? Why don't you tell us?
Just for saying that they just want to kill Jews and that they're terrorists, man.
What you meant to say is Hezbollah is Muslim.
You're not thinking deep enough about this topic.
I mean, I literally just refuted this a second ago. He tries to frame it as like them being born anti-Semitic or something, rather than this being a reaction to what Israel does and has done to everyone around them for their entire lives, for generations at this point.
My criticisms of the Houthis' slogan do not factor into what they are doing, or is it as anti-Semitic, but contextualizing it matters. Yeah, it's really interesting because, like,
what they're doing means the anti-genocide blockade.
That is such wet.
I don't know why. Let's bring up like a comparison here. The British Empire was the most genocidal empire in the world during World War II. Was it bad that the British Empire fought the Nazis? Was that like a bad thing? Because they were so much worse than these Houthis ever were. But does that mean that it was bad for them to do like a good thing, like, you know, fight Hitler, fight Italy, fight Japan? I'm sure Ethan would say, no, of course not. You know, they were bad, but, you know, Hitler was worse, and it's good that they joined in the war against him. It's good that they fought back. What Ethan is basically arguing here is that the anti-genocide blockade being carried out by the Houthis should be discarded and just by default thought of as terrible and bad, because according to his narrative, they are horrible people. Which, even if it were true, that wouldn't say anything about whether it's legitimate or not to carry out an anti-genocide blockade against Israeli and Western shipping that is allied to Israel.
Western-focused propaganda, like for a Palestinian to arrive at anti-Semitic opinions, okay?
This is just so nothing, man. There's no substance to this. Most of this is just Ethan confidently saying dumb shit, playing clips that he does not actually feel the need to debunk, and like what he seems to think are like epic editing flourishes that totally own his opponent.
They don't need to read Mein Kampf.
Dude, you are not funny. Oh, this is so embarrassing.
Oh, I almost forgot the most fun one. They brought back slavery.
Ethan Klein. Source analysis time. This is the funnest part of the video. Ethan Klein, they brought back slavery. Let's fact check that. Here's evidence of this. 2 headlines. 1, slavery in Yemen by Al Jazeera. Let's look at that first. Slavery in Yemen. Al Jazeera. Let's check it out. Despite government denials, this investigation uncovers evidence of slave labor in Yemen by Al Jazeera, 10 September 2014. Now, which government was in power on the 10th of December 2014? It's the previous government, the one that was Saudi-backed to fight against the Houthis. This video is about slavery in Yemen being covered up and enabled by the previous Yemeni government that the Houthis have overthrown. You stupid motherfucker. This is pro-Houthi propaganda, if anything. What's his other source? This is such a great demonstration of Ethan. Like, he just Googles shit, puts it there, puts a headline there, and acts like he's proven his claims when he fucking has not. Houthis restore slavery in Yemen. Let's check this one out. So this one is a 2019 article from Ashaq al-Awsat. What is Ashaq al-Awsat? According to Wikipedia, it is the newspaper of a private company that was founded with the approval of the Saudi royal family and government ministers, which is noted for its support of the Saudi government. The newspaper is owned by a member of the Saudi royal family. So this newspaper is a Saudi newspaper owned and run by the Saudi royal family to post pro-Saudi propaganda. The Saudis are like the main actors in a decade-long assault on Yemen by them and their puppet government in Yemen, which has resulted in something like 400,000 deaths. So is the Saudi government a reliable actor here? Is this something that we should take at face value just based on the headline? No, this is like citing fucking Joseph Goebbels to prove that the Jews are enslaving fucking Aryans or something, dude. Like, that is this bad. These are the people who caused this great suffering, this great genocide in Yemen, and you're just citing them unfucking critically when with this propaganda they put out to delegitimize their enemies. This is like even dumber than the other stuff that he cited. What are the sources for this? Sources close to the group told the paper. Oh, whoa. Several local reports have confirmed this. Yemeni activists have revealed. They told us that there is slavery. A lawyer told us. A civilian told us. Experts confirmed this to us. There is literally nothing here. Oh, don't forget the U.S. State Department said so. You know, the U.S. State Department, the other main actor in this Yemeni genocide, in this genocide of Yemen, fighting against the Houthis, supporting the puppet government. Wow, Ethan, you just straight up cited fucking Saudi pro-genocide propaganda from 2019, by the way, when this genocide was still in full swing. Great source, you fucking dumbass. Like, this is insane. This man does not have a critical bone in his body, and this proves it. Like, from the thing of him like positively citing an embarrassing clip where he just took like a propaganda documentary about Uyghur death camps at face value, now to this with him just taking straight up made up Saudi propaganda at face value, as well as not even like looking at what that Al Jazeera video was actually about, which was about the slavery under the government that the Houthis are fighting and have largely deposed. Absolutely fucking unbelievable. And he just moves on like he's proven this. Dude, this took him like months to make. Just for a comparison of the quality of like the research, my latest video took me maybe 12 days to make. It's almost as long as this. And I don't know how this took him two fucking months to make. Like, it just further proves the level of incompetence that Ethan Klein operates under. Like, he's just so dumb, man. What else is there to say about this? Uncritically citing Saudi government made up propaganda and presenting a documentary from 2014 about the previous government as if it's about the Houthis. He's just going to move on as well. Like, he doesn't even engage with the sources, doesn't even actually cite anything from within them. Just look at this headline that says what I want to say. Look at this negative thing about these people who I want to paint negatively. That's it. Anyway, so I'm just going to make my own little article here about Ethan Klein, using the same standard of evidence that he used for him saying the Houthis restored slavery. This is the name of the news service. We are the Hassan Piker, the state news service, 100% unbiased. Okay? This is 100% unbiased news. And the headline is going to be, Ethan Klein confirmed restores slavery to Beverly Hills. This is absolutely 100% objective news. You guys cannot say anything about this not being objective. Silence. Sources told us that Ethan Klein has restored slavery to Beverly Hills. Experts confirm this. A donkey in the street even made numerous noises when we asked if it would confirm the heinous crimes of Ethan Klein. As far as I'm concerned, this is dispositive evidence that Ethan Klein has returned slavery to Beverly Hills, and we need to get everyone looking into this immediately. The Hassan Piker State News Service would not lie about this. Do you think that the Hassan Piker State News Service would just make up sources that told them? Experts? They would even just interview a fake donkey? They would never do that. How dare you insinuate that? Oh my God, this is the brain of Ethan Klein, the critical thinking skills of Ethan Klein and his audience. Like, none of them question this at all. Incredible, man.
Allah is doing what Luffy would do.
That lines up with leftist values. All right, so these guys are clearly the bad guys. So my question is, how does Hassan cover such a genocidal,
clearly the bad guys? Bad guys relative to who? The Yemeni government backed by Saudis committing genocide? Or Israel? Or the USA also backing those Saudis doing the genocide? Relative to who? Relative to those people, these are the good guys, even if everything that you said about them was true, including the slavery, because that's how bad those people are, that they would be better than them. Like, come on, dude. You're just so fucking dumb. Like, these guys are the bad guys. Who are the good guys then, Ethan?
Misogynistic, homophobic, terroristic organization.
Oh, you want to see a Houthi musical? Sure. These were the people that the Saudis were killing, by the way, just so you know. These fucking musically gifted individuals.
Yeah.
Why do you show us him talking about the Saudis killing them? And you provide no context about him. Has he even mentioned the Saudis? I don't think so. This is literally a song about their rebellion against the US Saudi-backed Yemeni government, which they defeated. And the only way that a group like this could possibly win in such a situation, given the pervasive international support that the former Yemeni government had, is due to their much greater local support. And you should be asking questions about why that is instead of just trying to delegitimize this.
That's right, my friend. Hassan just played straight-up terrorist propaganda without even being there to analyze it.
What makes them terrorists? You have not explained what makes them terrorists. Why are they terrorists? What is it that makes them terrorists? The US government said so? Is that because that's the only thing you've actually cited so far? Can you provide us like evidence of a terrorist attack that they have done?
Surely this must be against terms of service. Twitch does not allow content that depicts, glorifies, encourages, or supports terrorism or violent extremist actors. For example, displaying or linking terrorist or extremist propaganda, even for the purpose of denouncing such content. Denouncing? Okay, but what's the rule for endorsing it? Is that okay?
What makes this terrorist?
The answer is yes, as Hassan was never punished for this blatant violation of Twitch community.
He has not done anything to show us that they are terrorists. We're just supposed to accept it by default because they're Arab, basically. That's it. Why are they terrorists, Ethan? Why can't you include evidence of this claim in your video? Everything that he claims, it's like he just expects it to be self-evident. He does not at all ever actually provide any reason to believe him unless it's just like, I think this, I'm going to call them this. You know, this is terrorism. China is doing genocide. I don't have to prove any of my claims because I know that my audience is going to be perceptible to this by default. They don't know why either. I don't know why I believe this. I just do.
Guidelines. Got it. So denouncing terrorism is bad. Don't do that. Endorsing terrorism is good. Okay, got it, Twitch.
What's going on? Why are they terrorists? You tell us.
This is a 3-minute video of... What do you mean a music video? When you said music video, I'm expecting like bad example, Chris Brown dancing, you know?
No. They do musicals. They're very musical people.
Are you being serious? Dog, what do you think I made this? I know they're singing, but I'm seeing this guns and shit. This isn't a music video, Hassan.
No, it is. They do musicals about like their fucking their actions all the time.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. I've got this. Instead of terrorist propaganda, let's call it musicals.
They do musicals.
Instead of violent jihadists.
Violent jihadists, like, dude. He's just throwing like negative adjectives and nouns at them. He doesn't provide any proof of his claims. Why are they terrorists? More than anything else, why are they terrorists but the IDF isn't, Ethan? Why is Rashid a terrorist but Hila Klein isn't? I'd love to talk to you live about that. We could do some comparisons and we can get to the bottom of your claims here rather than you just saying them with no fucking evidence.
Let's call them musically talented people.
They're very musical people.
Are you being serious?
Guys, let's just use our brains. Fiddler on the Roof, Wicked, Alexander Hamilton, man. There's no reason we...
Oh my God, he's so not fucking funny and just stupid. This is so embarrassing.
Can't put these Houthis on Broadway.
Well, they go, listen, you want to fucking bring a ship through here? We're going to take it. So that's exactly what the Houthis start doing. They start fucking sending in helicopters onto fucking ships. Bro, they fucking, look at this. They got the Palestinian flag that they painted under the helicopter, the Yemen flag. They fucking overtake. They start